trying that shit on me. 'Cause I still can't sleep without medication, and I let my thoughts run wild while I still think I got one, and I care too much about my reputation, and I'm tired of sleeping on this floor.
Hey everyone, Anthony, Interviews with Everyday People. We have a real fun guest, two guests on the show today. We got some of the members of Toolshed Jack. I'll let them introduce themselves in a moment here. But yeah, so go ahead, guys. Whoever wants to go first.
I always go
Steve,
first.
Steve always goes first.
It's always a fun time, that's for sure. This is Steve-O with Toolshed Jack. Glad to be here.
And this is Brian Todd, equally and also Lee with Toolshed Jack, and this is my wedding anniversary. Yay! Happy me.
I don't think also Lee is a word, by the way.
It is today.
Yeah.
Okay.
They made a special rule today. So,
Agreed.
So when it comes down to bands in the area, I'm a really big fan of everything that, you know, when it comes to our local music scene, whether it be cover music or original bands. We have a plethora of that in School County, and everyone's so talented, and the way everyone works together and gets and just the scene here. If unfortunately everything going on with the COVID-19, there's really not much to do. But when this wasn't going on, if you couldn't find somewhere to go or something to do on a weekend with the music scene in our area, it's your own fault. But when it comes down to, like I said before, even when Brian was on and when I had other guests on, when it comes down to some of the top acts in the area, when it comes to, you know, the bands who you're going to go see and have a great time, they're going to play the block parties, they're going to play all the big events, it really comes down to Toolshed, and it comes down to Hooligan. Like, you guys are like the forefront runners when it comes to that. You've been around a long time. You guys been doing it for a while, so like you guys are kind of like the godfathers of the area when it comes to like the music scene.
Wow, a godfather.
A lot have come and gone and changed members, but you know, Toolshed's one of the longest standing. I feel like you guys in Sapphire probably.
Yeah, you know, and that's a great point to start with. Look, I always say that the proof is in the pudding. I think people are always trying to go out and have a good time, and certainly, you know, when I joined the group, and that was pushing 15 years ago. When I joined the group, it really became this thing. And Brian could speak about what it was before that, because, you know, I can't take credit nor criticism for that. But
those are the good old days.
Old days. But you know, one of the things that we decided as a band right away was, look, people work all the time. They're working and they want to get out. And here they are, you know, in a lot of cases, going to a casino and trying to have a good time, or going to a block party to support a local fire company or a church or something like that. And the very least that we can do is entertain them. You know, certainly we're musicians and we care about our craft and we're always trying to get better. But one of the most important things for us was always, you know, putting on a good show and having a good time. And yeah, that means acting like a goofball every now and then and maybe flubbing a note. But obviously people like it because we're still doing it and we're still getting hired. And so the other thing that I credit that to for sure are the people in the band. You know, Anthony, you realize, you know, you've been around it for a long time yourself. It just doesn't happen that you get essentially the same core group of people in a group for, you know, 5 years, let alone 15 or 20.
Yeah. And then so like, it's how you're kind of saying too, how no matter what, it seems like now I know people go through things and people have days where, you know, maybe it's not their best day, but I don't think I've ever seen a show where you guys were on stage and it looked like somebody was having that day. Like as soon as you guys hit the stage, you guys wipe that away and you guys, like I said, you guys go out and have a great time. Like as someone who sees your shows, that I've never even, because that's the small things I watch, like not looking for someone to have a bad day, but there's things you can see on stage where like, hey, maybe this guy's not feeling it today, but I've never seen that in a Toolshed Jack show. You guys, like the Delano block party. You guys ran and jumped on the jungle gym and played your instruments. Like, you know what I mean? Like it just
we're a little OCD as well.
Yeah.
You know that.
Yeah.
No, and I think and Brian, you could chime in as well. We genuinely enjoy what we do. I mean, we really do. I've been with them again since 2004. It hasn't become a job yet, and it's a good time. I mean, and again, we are being paid. We are employees, and we are being employed by somebody, and we take a lot of pride in our work. So certainly, we're going to. I'm sorry, I'm getting another phone call at the same time. I had to look. Okay, there, I declined it. But we take pride in our work, and it's special what we do. And in order to do it well, that's the way it goes. Have a good time all the time.
That other phone call, Steve, was me telling you to shut up already.
Oh, that didn't take long. Thank you.
Honestly, Tony, if I may say a thing or no, we always let Steve do a lot of talking. Steve is whether you believe it or not, we always go back and forth as to who is the Jack of Toolshed Jack. And
no. We're not even going to pull this one out.
Well, Steve is the kind of guy that is he's kind of the voice when it comes to what we like to do, and that's why I like just listen. Let Steve talk. I mean, basically what it comes down to, and I kind of use this in other areas too, Tony, is we take our craft seriously, but we do not take ourselves seriously.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that, of course, is we are mostly if you have 5 people in Toolshed Jack, majority, if not almost all of us, have other things that we do. So this is not our professional job. However, that being said, with that, I think comes, I want to say, like, we have something to prove. When we go up on the stage, we want to captivate you. We want you to see a show. We want you to go and leave that show knowing, you know what? We had a good time, and they sounded pretty darn good too.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we go with that.
And we want that gig back next year.
Oh, yeah.
It's really easy to stay together. I mean, let's be honest. It's really easy to stay together when people are calling you to play.
Yeah.
One of the hardest things in my life, I do a lot of the booking for the band. I don't do it all, but I do a lot of it. And one of the hardest things to do is say no to people. These are people who, they're going to pay you, the price that we're charging. And they like what we do. Otherwise they would not be hiring us. And it's really hard to say no to that. So yeah, I mean, that's a big part of it too. And that has, the people, the fans, the community events, the casinos, the weddings, also the bar mitzvahs. We have played a bar mitzvah.
Yes, we did.
And that makes it a lot easier to keep going.
Yeah.
And to look back and say that it's been 15, 20 years it's pretty amazing. And we do not take it for granted. Believe me, we don't take it for granted.
And I think when you guys put on a show, sometimes you have those pre-jitters. A lot of people don't want to get up and have a good time or dance or get involved. But I think watching you guys and willing to kind of have a good time and kind of be silly and fun and then kind of get the crowd participation. 9 times out of 10, by the end of a Toolshed Jack show, everyone's up and doing their thing and having a blast because you guys are willing to pull the crowd in like that instead of just some bands will kind of just stand there and just kind of play their instruments and call it a day, where you guys get that interaction.
I don't know. I will certainly say that there are bands out there who are probably better musicians, and there's bands that have played, different venues that maybe we want to get into. But one thing that I always I always say, you're not going to have a good time at one of our shows. And it's rare, it has happened. I mean, there's been hundreds of shows at this point since I've been in the band. But there have been those shows where, they're not quite into it, or it's like, wait a minute, what kind of band did we just hire? That's happened as well. But we, and Brian will corroborate this, we do live and die by the crowd. I mean, it is so. I'll come home from a gig and I'll tell my wife, how was your night? And I'll say, we could have played the phone book and that crowd would have had a good time. They were just so into it and so receptive.
Yep.
And other times it's more like going to the dentist. You got to work a little bit harder. And
well, that's weird.
That's what
that's weird too,
entertainers
though,
do.
Steve.
That's what entertainers do, right?
But that's the other thing, though, Steve, is that like sometimes you're sitting there and the crowd may not participate, but yet they're loving it. And that's weird because usually we define our night by, was the crowd up and dancing? Were they doing silly things like we were? But in fact, I've gone to gigs where like hardly is anybody in anything, and I go out and say, I'm sorry that we kind of disappointed. Like, you guys are great. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
You were, okay, I guess we were. Thank you. And you leave there with a question mark.
Yeah, but we, living and dying by the crowd, it's definitely, and any band will say that, but because of the nature of the type of show that we do and the kind of music that we play, maybe it's a little bit more true with Toolshed Jack than others, but that's only my opinion, of course, in my humble opinion.
Yeah.
IMHO.
Great thing you guys do as well is you always keep it fresh. You go when you go see a show, 9 times out of 10 you're not gonna. You'll hear some of the same songs, but for the most part, if something new comes out and it's popular and people are into it, you guys put the work in to rehearse that, practice it, and throw it in your set list. So you're constantly always evolving too as a band, and you kind of stay up to date with the newer music, and then you put the ones in that people may not even expect. They think they're gonna hear that night, and you guys sneak those in as well.
The diehard fans, we should make like a trivia game. Like, what is the longest song that the band has played consistently? And again, I can't speak to before my time in the band, but there are still some in there. There are still some in there.
Every band is my own worst enemy. That's usually everyone's go-to.
We have played that song, but interestingly enough, that's actually not one of them. Like James Lade, I think. Well, although that one's not. That's like a recurring song.
Yeah.
One of the great things about doing it, and one of the things that maybe allows us to do what you said. We're at a point now where if we have 2 shows in a weekend or 3 shows in a weekend, there are always, we're always going to do the rap. There's usually some disco in there, but it does allow for a fresh set. We could easily play a 2-night weekend or a 3-night weekend, and not play the same song twice.
Yeah.
But that's just, when you're doing it for a long time, you have more songs. There's more. Oh, remember that song? Yeah, let's bring that one back. That's always fun. That song that you hated playing 5 years ago, and now all of a sudden it's cool again.
Yeah.
Or you have, your new female lead singer is singing it differently than the other female lead singer did, and it's fresh again, or they really like it, and we add horns to it, or there's something like that.
That's where I wanted to segue, Steve. Is that the great part about the band? Again, I've been in for over 20 years, actually. 20. Oh boy. Anyway,
we're all 30. What I was saying, we're all perpetually 30.
Sure. Think about the band itself, though. Get ready for this, Tony. Is that we started off? Toolshed Jack started off with 4 guys, and it started off with a drummer, a rhythm guitar, a bass guitar, and a lead guitar, and that was it. Then I caught on board in 1999, and now it was 5 people. You had a keyboard guy who could sing and play trumpet. But now we're at the point where we have 5 people, but now our lead singer, Juliana, she plays saxophone and she sings. We pick up a couple people along the way who also sit in every now and then to play saxophone. So it's like the evolution of the band is fun. That's what keeps us coming back, but it makes it exciting for us too.
Yeah, I agree with everything he just said.
Yeah, I mean,
are you doing dishes or something, Steve? It sounds like you're playing.
Do you really want to know?
He's playing blocks.
I'm watching my daughter, and we're playing soccer at the same time that I'm giving this interview. Indoor soccer. Indoor soccer.
I'm a fan of that. My old school soccer coaching days.
If it gets too loud, yeah.
Anyway, it sounded like you were doing the dishes or something. And
no, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Hey, listen, this is the thing you do when you have the COVID-19. People can't dedicate times to do stuff, but I appreciate the time you can give me with an interview. So I'll take what I can get.
Speaking of the COVID-19, let it be known that. So I joined Toolshed Jack in, we'll call it July of 2004. So the summer of 2004. And then I probably played I can remember the first gig that I played with them.
If it makes you feel better, that was my junior year of high school.
Listen, age is a state of mind. Again, we're always perpetually 30. So that's
Steve,
except
you're
Juliana.
old.
No, I'm not old. 30. I'm okay. 32.
Sure.
But so I played my first gig with Toolshed Jack was a Mountain Valley deck party. It was the deck party. It was probably Labor Day weekend.
It was
later in
crazy.
September. That was my first official gig that I played with them.
No wonder why we don't play there anymore.
Right. No, well, we played there for many years for sure. We could write a book just in that. The places we did play. That was but there are some good ones too. But anyway. So when I started doing that, the band was definitely, it was definitely one thing, and it has evolved, into something, that we're very proud of. And, with any person who does anything in their craft, if you love what you do and you take it seriously, you obviously want to keep doing it better. And we're highly competitive too, personally, with each other, where we just want to improve and do this. And, that bass line is tough, but we can do it. And then, but you got to sing on top of it. And so I would certainly like to think that the band is better now than what it used to be. And that's an interesting thing that happens every now and then. You'll get people who will say, I haven't seen you guys in 9 years. Oh my God, which is good, and everybody likes their different versions of the band. I like the band. No one ever says I like the band when Steve-O was the lead singer. That one never comes up.
I heckled you guys at the Yingling event because I was like, "Where's Steve-O?" I was getting Steve-O a chance going.
No, Brian. It was.
Brian. I was getting the Brian chance going. I'm sorry.
It was Brian.
Yeah.
That was the one thing I wasn't at all last year, and everybody remembers. Where was Brian?
Yeah.
Well, okay. So, but I was making a point about the COVID thing. So, as we tape this, and I know that we are taping it differently than when it's airing, so I won't reveal dates. But we it is the longest break that we've had as a band. Since I've been playing. And I've been in the band 20 years, 15 years.
Yeah.
And it's easily the longest break that I've had, which it's been challenging. It's tough. And I could only imagine what it's like for people who really are professional entertainers who do it for a living. We all have jobs that we have as well. So I feel for, these bands who, it really is their bread and butter. We enjoy what we do and we love it, but it's been a very interesting time in the industry that we work in.
Yeah. Now, here's a question I have for you guys. Now, I know being a part of helping bands and seeing how bands go about and do things, one of the things I always think is like, man, that's got to be a challenge, and I'm curious how you guys overcome it. Is you do have a four, sometimes, depending on how many people, 5-6 piece band. How do you guys find time with your personal lives and playing shows every weekend to get rehearsal times in, or to practice?
Wait. What's rehearsal? Give me a dictionary. I need a dictionary.
Oh man.
Well, that's the thing, Tony. We can't. And the thing here, ready for this? Right now, as we speak on this day, we have a lead singer who lives in Lancaster. We have me. I'm in the Lehigh Valley, and the rest of the clan are up in Schuylkill County. How we all get together that's one of the things that we really arm wrestle with each other. Is that rehearsing is the best thing for the band, but just getting us all together is just a nightmare to schedule. So what we'll do is if we want to get a couple songs, and this is where you wish you were a fly on the wall, is seeing our group text messages about new songs is the most brought down wrestle match of a dirty flarn, you name it, back and forth is what we do is about new songs and how we're going to do them. Because ultimately, here's what you got. The three pillars in our band, and we got Band of Five, but there's basically myself, Steve, and how dare we leave out Mr. Joel this long without in a Toolshed Jack podcast here.
Yeah.
He started the band. He's one
of the co-founders. So what happens is basically Steve's the guy with ideas, and he said, hey, let's give it a try. I'm the guy like, yeah, I guess we'll give it a try. And Joel is the conservative one in the group who always says, he's always the but guy. So we all have our kind of roles, and somehow you put it in a blender, you mix it up, and and you see what everybody can at least agree upon, meet in the middle, and that's how we get our new songs. So to actually rehearse, it does happen maybe 2-3 times a year. Steve, what do you think?
Well, we shouldn't reveal how often we don't rehearse. It's absolutely one of our, well, now people who tune into this are going to know, so the cat's out of the bag. Every band has its problems, and one of our problems is we just don't rehearse. I'll codify that by saying rehearse all of us in the same room. Now, I play every day.
True.
Juliana is singing every day, Squeak, Keith, whoever is playing drums for us, my God, they're monsters on the drum kit. They're playing all the time. So oftentimes what will be, what'll happen is we have to practice vocals. So we might have a vocal practice, or, there might be a rhythm practice. So, only certain people will get together in the group and do that. But no, Brian's not too far from the truth there. I would bet you that the full band gets together maybe 4 times a year. So quarterly, it's our quarterly practice that we're having. And that is usually really to only learn what we call songs that we have to learn in a practice.
Yeah.
Because a lot of new material is going to be put in at sound check. A lot of new material is going to be tried. I can't tell you how many times we've gone through a song and we've just done it. We've just maybe when we talk through it at practice, it's an easy song. And again, we're talking pop rock that we're playing too. This is not Beethoven. It's not a concerto that we're trying to perform up there. It's rock and roll.
Yeah.
And hopefully every time we do it, the song gets a little bit better and better. And, we got to work on this. And you're still playing that bass line wrong, even though we learned the song a year ago. Mm-hmm. That's not the lyric. So songs are going to evolve all the time. But we do a lot of sound check rehearsal as well. Our sound man, we work mainly with Greg Semenko. He's fantastic. He could shut off the fronts, and we practice through our ears and through our monitors. But time is tough. It's very, very difficult with 5 professional people who all have lives and families and other careers and things to do that. So individual, and we make time. Quarterly practices. I love it.
Well, the reason I bring that up, and it's not so much to shed light on something negative, I kind of see it as a positive, because I think a lot of people, when they don't realize when they go see local bands, that most of the 90% of the bands that I do talk to and I do know, they're in the same boat. They don't have that time to, especially when it comes to the cover side of things, a lot of bands don't have that time to get together. Maybe there's 1 or 2 bands who I know have a set practice date. But once again, they're kind of a newer band. They're kind of just getting their feet wet. They've only been doing it maybe 2 or 3 years. So the fact that sometimes when you go see a band and you hear them playing a new song, 9 times out of 10, that might be the first time they're just giving it a shot in front of you. You know what I mean? And that's a testament to you how talented you guys are at your craft and how talented you are musicians, where you can kind of just look at each other, say, all right, run that bass line, I'll follow you with the keys, and then the lead guitarist and singer will do their thing. Where to me, it's kind of like being a wrestling fan, and then you kind of get pulled behind the curtain and you get to see 2 guys work a match before the match starts, and then you go see them perform the performance. It's like the same thing with musicians, where you guys can kind of just look at each other, have a secret language that you just kind of do with each other, and kind of show each other your hands on your instrument. And it's just like, to someone who doesn't play an instrument, that's just a really fun thing to watch and see at a band.
And I won't give credit to myself, but I do credit, I credit everybody else. Joel's very good at that. And Brian, if I could be so bold, is extremely underrated. I never give him enough credit.
Please be bold.
I'm incredibly critical of what Brian does, but it's amazing. Somebody will be, taping us on their iPhone, and I'll catch it on Facebook later, and I'll say, my God, look at Brian, like he's playing keys, he's singing, he's balancing, a bubble jar on his other hand, while drinking a beer at the same time. I mean, those are the kind of things. We did a gig. It was the last gig we did as of this recording, and somebody came up at the end of the show, and they were just like, man, it's just so tight. It's so tight. And, that's what I'm striving for, as the bass player in the band. I do have a tendency to overplay. I know, I overplay. To really lock in with the drummer and create that foundation so that everybody else can be a little wacky. I was very surprised when they said, you guys are just so tight, and good, because that's what we're trying to do. At least that's one of the things that I'm trying to do.
Well, let me jump in and throw it right back at you, Steve. Steve is incredibly underrated as a bass player. Steve, I will tell you, I hear from people that know bass, they'll say, if you actually watch Steve throws a lot of extra stuff in there. So you pat yourself on the back too, Bob. You got a great bass skills. Steve, and don't remember, if you know this, Tony, Steve did not start out in our band as our bass player. He started out playing rhythm guitar and singing. And because at the time we had a local Schuylkill County legend named Scott Zettelneuer, who had been playing for years, and he would sit in with us and play bass. And when Steve joined, Steve was playing rhythm, so Scott was on bass, Joel was still on lead guitar. And then a couple of years later, Scott went to Florida, and then I'm like, Steve, I'm going to tell you a secret. I didn't even know you were a bass player.
I am.
I didn't even know. So when we're like, oh, we lost Scott, what are we going to do? Well, Steve's like, well, I guess I'll move to bass. And I went, what?
Yeah.
You play bass? Okay, I didn't know that.
I see a lot of bands who get by with the bass with a keyboard player. So sometimes the keyboard player plays the bass tracks. So it's good that you had that replacement on deck, or you would have been doing double duty.
We've done that too.
Yeah,
we do that
Brian, a little bit.
We do. We always have to keep an eye on Brian's right hand or left hand to make sure it doesn't go.
This is a family podcast, buddy. Keep it clean.
to see how far down the 88 keys he goes.
Oh, keyboard playing. Keyboard playing. Yeah.
There's a few tunes, and we've done it before, and we're doing it again now. We're a couple acoustic things where I play acoustic, and he's able to cover the low end, while singing and balancing a bubble jar and drinking at the same time. It's amazing. So.
Yeah, and like I said, keyboard players in the area, there's good ones, but then there's standouts, and definitely Brian is definitely one of the standouts. You have Brian, you have Justin.
I'm going to jump in right now to say there are keyboard players in this county that are way better than I do not.
But you're a showman. You're a showman.
Showman, yes, but as far as playing the keyboard, please don't put me in the top 100. I know where I am.
But how many bands probably went to a Toolshed Jack show, seen you on keyboard, and said we should add a keyboard player to our band?
I know one.
Maybe.
I know one.
Oh yeah, we know one.
All of a sudden, Hooligan got a keyboard player.
Yeah. And they got a real good one too.
Oh, he's
good too.
Justin's phenomenal.
One of the great things about Toolshed Jack, and I don't know if other musicians recognize this, but one of the things that I think we do very well musically is we're able to really fill the space, and we're able to fill the gaps and cover it, because essentially it's a power trio, and you have the keys that are accenting things and adding some things in. But Joel is very we keep talking about underrated people. Joel is a guitar player, but he is not your typical out front. Watch me rip this big huge power chord. Show off guitar player, but the things he does really covers, a lot of space, and almost like in a funk way, but in a funk blues kind of way. And, so I think the way we do things and the way that we approach music, is unique. There's no other band like us. And I'm not saying that in an egotistical way. I'm saying it as a matter of fact. You're not going – when you hire Toolshed Jack, they play, Jesse's Girl, and they play, Fall Out Boy, and they play – but they do rap, they do funk, they do disco, they do hip-hop, they do stuff from the
country,
60s, they do country.
60s, 70s,
it's there are other bands that cover the same gamut of material, but none of them do it the way that we do. And I'm very, very, very proud of that. We are unique in the way we do it, and we have a good time as well.
Yeah.
And that's really, I'll be honest, and if other bands are listening to this, I understand that we're all artists, and we take a lot of pride in our instruments and pride in our work and what we do, and that's great. But if I was that much of a musician, I'd be playing, acoustic guitar in a coffee house somewhere. You do what the people want you to do to a certain case, and we're able to do that and still keep it pretty unique and original.
Yeah. Yeah, there is definitely that does happen. That's a thing too, where a lot of bands, where say they can't get a gig over the weekend, they'll break down and be an acoustic band somewhere for the weekend just to kind of fill the gaps in. And so
we've done that too.
Yeah,
Sure. It's not above us.
Now,
it's not beneath us.
you guys just played a show before this whole thing went over. I don't know the actual venue location, so you might have to fill in the gaps. But you guys, I believe it was like a Christmas party or something, where you had most of your original, like some of your past members come up and all perform at the same time again. How is that to kind of get, three previous lead singers on stage and some other members that kind of go up and kind of have like a Toolshed Jack family reunion?
Yeah, it's awesome. So it was an event at the Tamaqua Community Arts Center, and it was for the American Cancer Society. We, any band that's doing this, listen, I wish we could do every benefit. I wish, and sometimes I wish all we could do was benefits, but that's just not the nature of the game. You've got to go out and you've got to earn your keep. But one of the causes near and dear to arts is the American Cancer Society. So we host an event every year. And for the last 3 years, it's been at the Tamaqua Community Arts Center. And an old musician friend of mine, when you're growing up and you're learning how to play, you meet these people. And there was a guy from Shenandoah, his name was Chris, and Chris said, "You want to get people to your show, man?" I said, "Yeah, I want to get people to my show." He said, "You invite all the musicians you know, and you tell them they can play one song." And I said, well, I want to get people to my benefit. We're trying to raise money for a cause. And so the idea kind of grew out of that, like, well, let's invite a few of our people who used to play. Let's invite friends. Let's invite, people that we've met, musicians, and they come and play with us. It's amazing. It's a unique show. It's one of my favorite shows that we do every year, not only because it's a great cause, but for the last couple of years, we've tried to do what's turned into like 3.5 hours of nonstop music, and there's some acoustic things and people get little breaks in and there, but there's consistent music, and people are definitely going to get their money's worth by coming to that show. And it was great. It was the first time we had played with Maggie as a band, since she left. Erin Mary, the unknown original female lead singer in Toolshed Jack, she's been there, I think, every year when we've done it. So it's always great doing songs, and then to have, the three singers on stage. Catherine was the only one who wasn't there. She had a gig that night. But to have three female singers up there, singing together, it was really, really special. It was great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I seen the photos. I thought it was awesome.
We almost had Steve, who was our original founder, my cousin Steve, who is now down here in the Lehigh Valley playing with a country band called Steel Creek, and he was going to come to that guy. I'm not sure why he couldn't make it for the last second, but so we almost had five former lead singers that night if the schedules would have worked out.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. That's pretty neat. That you show as a band too that some people may leave or some things may change, but it's not for like a bad reason. It's not because there's bad blood. There's still people willing to come in and work with you guys and have a good time. So that's fun to see as a fan as well.
And that's actually one of the. I think another reason. You talk about the longevity of the group and why we're able to do the things that we do. Look, you're not going to meet 5 more easygoing people, fair people, people who I think, in terms of the business of the band and what we do, our price is fair, our reason, we're reasonable, especially right now. There's fire companies who are calling me saying, look, if we can't have our block party, what money do we owe you? It's like, come on, man. Seriously,
nothing.
we're not gonna take your, if we show up and we play, and then that's a different story.
Buy new boots.
But right. So that just being personable, being reasonable, and just being nice. It goes a very, very long way in this business. Anyway, listen, I'm almost out of time.
Yeah, I was gonna wrap up right here.
Okay, I'm ready. Go ahead.
Yeah. So what I want to explain to people, especially with bands like Toolshed Jack and some of the other ones we said in the beginning, is when you go see them play at a block party or a benefit show, or you see them play at like local events in School County, it's a deeper meaning. And I know that one of the reasons why I'm so passionate and why I love the local music scene is usually 9 times out of 10 when a band's playing at a venue, or a fire company or a block party, we're being brought together, and there's good things happening because of the power of music. So like when a firehouse has the block party going, they're raising money so they can still save people's lives, you know. And one of the forefronts that gets people to those events is the music scene, and you guys have been on the forefront for that for, you know, how you're saying now 20 plus years. So as someone who, you know, grew up in the fire department and growing up in there, and just having that understanding of music where it's bigger than just the music, you're helping your community in a way that you don't even realize. I want to thank you guys for that, because I think that's a really important thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, we appreciate that for sure. And you know, it's part of what we do. It's part of the local, you know, the local draw. But you know, but again, I've always looked at it as a business arrangement. Like, look, you're hiring us, and we're going to do our best job and put on the best show that we can. You know, it's different now. It's older. You know, Steve-O can't jump around as much. There's torn knees and hurt people, but we're still going to give it our all every show for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for the call in. We will wrap it. I can't even talk. We will wrap it up here. So if check out Toolshed Jack on Facebook or all social media. And once this by the time this airs, hopefully the COVID-19 will be done by July. Let's hope. Definitely go out and support this band and go see them and have a great time. I guarantee you will not leave there disappointed. That's what I would say, because they do a great job. And thank you guys once again for doing this.
Thank you so much,
sir.
Anthony. It was awesome. Had a great time. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. See you guys.
I just wanna get off of the floor. And I just wanna get off of the floor. 'Cause I still can't sleep without medication. And I let my thoughts run wild while I still think I got one. And I care too much about my reputation. And I'm tired of sleeping on this floor. Yeah, I'm tired of sleeping on this floor.